If someone's joining a startup, especially an ed tech startup, and spoiler alert, schools are very budget constrained. If you want to create multi-billion-dollar companies, there's probably better places to focus than ed tech. It's about making an impact, and I would counsel you to find team members that think that your mission and the impact you can have and the change you can bring to education is so important that they're willing to put cycles into it as a first priority before they even worry about what potential compensation and outcome will be available for them down the road. This obviously is a decision that just about every teacher has made in the affirmative. People don't go into teaching to get rich. And while ed tech companies can have, fantastic financial outcomes, that shouldn't be the first focus. This was a lesson that a boss of mine at two companies, Steve Jobs, really hammered home. The journey is the reward. Focus on making a dent in the world first, and the financial success will be a measurable outcome that flows from that. Never focus on the financial win first. I think it's truer in ed tech than in a lot of industries. We talked about agility and resilience. If I had to add a third thing, it's right up there. It's tolerance for ambiguity and sometimes even chaos. Startups, by definition, are high on enthusiasm and quite low on their ability to predict how they're evolved. Pixar, for example, started out with a bunch of imaging algorithms, and we were focused on medical imaging, interpreting CT scans, slicing them together into a 3D color view of, say, a human head. And there was even about a 2-year period where we focused on remote sensing for the Department of Defense, analyzing reconnaissance satellite images. These were the commercial applications of the Pixar technology in the early days of the company, and they made money and they brought in revenue. The animation was a fun demo that the team did to show off the capabilities of the Pixar image computer. And if in 1987 you had told the team that the revenue source would ultimately be 2-hour feature-length animations and the licensing of plastic giveaways at fast food restaurants and through toy companies of those characters, that would have sounded crazy. But the team at Pixar, who I, of course, have the greatest respect for, they've carried it forward for a quarter century or more, they were able to keep a sense of agility and to change the focus and absorb the evidence that was bombarded from externally and say, well, lots of companies can do strategic imaging, but, John Lasseter, our colleague from Disney, he's actually got a real feel for narrative and character, and gosh, maybe we should just use commercial computers from places like Sun Microsystems and focus on making great cartoons instead of great imaging technology. And the rest is history. So a great example of being agile and being persistent and resilient and following the facts, not where you thought you should go in the first place. And I'll mention that some of those same Pixar people that I worked with so long ago have contributed to Piper, and we develop our own characters at Piper. We respectfully decline any character licensing deals with our friends at Disney, for example. When some of the other companies in this space, specifically, we respect these folks a lot. The folks at Sphero had a number of different licensing deals with Disney. We thought, wow, that's going to be really competitive. It turns out that as Piper moved deeper and deeper into work with schools and school districts and state departments of education, having a Marvel superhero license with your product, while it helps recognition with the children, it's actually at best neutral and often negative with the educators and the administrators who allocate budgets for purchases. There's sort of a grassroots, gritty aspect to education that really looks to the raw academic content of what you develop, and any veneer that you wrap around it had better be related to that academic content. And if it's simply a licensed third-party character from cartoons, cinema, something like that, it's actually not as effective in the education market as you might think. Now, for consumer holiday sales, it'll help out for sure. If you're going to be working in education technology, have educators on the team from day one. People with teaching credentials at a minimum, people with a master's in education, people with a PhD in education, people that have been science teachers and principals and heads of STEM for Los Angeles Unified. And our chief academic officer, Dr. Todd Ulla, has been all of those. The things typically celebrated in Silicon Valley, such as technology expertise, marketing expertise, those need to be in the service of the education mission. And I know of no better way to do that than to take educators and put them on the team from day one, even if they're in an advisory role.